shaped. And in the hands of those who are not ready for the future, there is no choice but to suffer it. So I will present to you both sides of that. What is possible to shape? What is, if not shaped, bound to happen and suffer. So, and the way I have organized is I have just taken 10 key ideas. Some of these ideas are overlapping with the book that I've written. Some are outside. The idea is partly, to be very honest, to create enough appetizing curiosity in you so that maybe you will read my book. Okay, I'll be honest. But if you don't read it, I respectfully understand it. So there's no problem with that. Now, so I'll go rapidly to allow for an extremely able and expert moderation by my friend, colleague, fellow colleague at ISP, Harish. I'll go rapidly. Okay? So I will not take the usual time I take giving long lectures. More to create the stage for the next kind of discussion. One, we all know it, but it's absolutely important to remember it, reinforce it, understand it in great detail. That if there is one thing which is already happening, but will happen in exponentially higher formats, irreversible, unavoidable future, that is digitalization. If anyone believes that the digitalization will recede and it will pass off as a fancy, I'll folded hands appeal to you, cautious. You probably are not going to see the world the same way. And YouTube channel streaming is just the beginning. And a lot more will happen in terms of this. One of the best ways to understand digitalization for entrepreneurial, managerial professionals in Hyderabad Management Association kind of place is to look at one important dimension of what digitalization does to organizations. What it does to organizations is that it converts organizations into a platform. What that means is you can own world's largest hotel chain without owning one hotel and can call yourself Airbnb. You can have world's largest retail store without having a store. I can call yourself Amazon. You can have the biggest taxi company without owning a taxi. You can call yourself Uber. These are not ordinary phenomena. They have redefined fundamentally how work is done, how customers approach a company, how work is delivered, and how technology, digital technology, is leveraged for seamless transactions between employees, employers, customers, stakeholders, regulators, you name it. Every dimension of society can come onto a platform and change the way we work. So, most important idea, before you understand future and future work, is to understand digitalization and its ever-growing mutations like a virus. Okay, Chat GPT, GPT-4, now O1, and before you realize one more and one more and one more, it's like the Apple phone is gaining by 15, 16, 14. This will keep on happening. And this is the future. You like or you don't like. The second one is that the biggest trend after digitalization is demography. The world is seeing some extraordinary demographic changes. A part of the world which was very advanced, whether it is the US or Europe or Japan, or even China, is rapidly growing old. Average ages are above 50, 48, and all that. Geriatrics is the most important subject there. Some of us can easily belong in that society because we are also geriatric. But our country has this unique demographic phenomenon that for the next 20 years, our average will remain below 30. we will be one of the most youthful countries, such that it's very hard to actually survive as an older man here. I'll give you my own example. Do you know that I cannot buy a trouser in a shop because most trousers are designed for younger people and they almost fall off. I wear a trouser to the navel point, and it's very hard to explain to the retailer that I want a high waist trouser. Why, when the customer is young and he prefers a trouser below the navel point, they won't produce a trouser for me, isn't it? If that is happening to trousers, imagine what will happen to work. What will work be tailored to? Have you seen the new naval point of the generation? Where should you look at? And how should you look at work? Will it fit the way the old worked? As soon as I came into the room, people will stand up. I used to wait for my boss forever, actually pull a chair before his cabin so that he sees that I am working till 7 o'clock before he goes. Will your child, your son, your 18-year-old, etc., will they do any of this? No. They're not doing it. But is work changing? Are bosses changing? Are they behaving any differently? Is hierarchy reducing? We are challenging it. The truth is, we want to somehow hold on to our power, not because of our merit, but because of our seniority. This is the biggest shift that will happen to the way work is organized, work is delivered, work is managed, work is meaningful, work is led. So you want to work for the future, into the future. You have to shed some of these old conventional notions about what work has been. And this is again another of those irreversible ideas, because this is the demography that you have to respond to. They are your children and nephews are the new employees. They are not any different. They get the iPad before you get it. They fly before you ever took in a flight in your life. They are coming to the office, they are not going to sit with a desktop like that. It is not possible because you have pampered them. You have allowed a very consultative environment at home. You don't even order on Swiggy without consulting your child. But if you come to the office, you tell him what to do day in and out. You think your child will listen now because he's an employee. It's a question that you have to ask. Therefore, flexibility is the new currency of work. You want to define work of the future. It's about the ability to do the laundry and answer the mail at the same time. They are not two different times that this is done. For us, it was about tucking in the shirt, wearing nice salwar, and going to office at 8:30 with a tiffin box, sitting there hoping that boss saab yaad karenge. That world has changed and will change even more rapidly. People will like to integrate work with life. We sometimes call it work-life balance. I would urge you to think about it as work-life integration, the ability to seamlessly move work and life. And it's not the first time in history this is happening. This has happened when you read my book. There's a whole chapter on how work has actually evolved over decades, centuries, and how there have been many times the world of artisans. They were not going to any place called office. Okay, there was still work happening. And they had long lunches with their families. They didn't eat out of tiffin boxes. So there are some interesting periods in history which was also productive, where also Krishna Deva Raya ruled. So therefore we must reimagine work, workforce, and workplace, all the three. We'll talk a little bit about work, we have already talked. We'll talk about workforce because workforce will be more digital, more digitally native, more skilled, more critical thinking, more demanding, more entrepreneurial, wanting greater autonomy, greater freedom, greater discretion, greater say on matters that matter to them. If that is the workforce of the future, then the workplace cannot be a new jail called cubicles. Air-conditioned jails and office cubicles are not very different. Slave driving that happened when people were put on bullock carts and various vehicles and taken to a center place with a hunter and made to work, unfortunately, is not very different from the air-conditioned buses in Bangalore that carry hordes of employees from morning to places called office. We have not changed anything fundamentally. It's just the torture chamber has become air-conditioned. Okay, so it looks like we are a new world, but the industrial era, smokestack continues. In fact, many offices are remakes of offices or factories. So there are many offices which architects are made fancy to see that the plumbing lines are all visible. So that you don't miss the factory at all. So if you read my book a little more in detail, you will find what kind of office changes that will happen. And let me make a prediction. Who knows what will happen in the future, but there's no harm in predicting and becoming an astrologer. I believe that not more than 20, 30 years' time, the office will be like a lounge, a cafe, a bar, and a pub. No wonder government of Haryana allows now beer and wine in offices. And homes, co-location spaces, backyards, sea resorts in Goa and Munnar will be the new workplaces. So people will work from places that look like that, lounges and coffee places. They'll not go there for work. By the way, they are not going there even now for work. When you go to office, and if I put a video on you, I'll find you working only 3 of those 8 hours. 5 of those 8 hours between tea, chai breaks and cafeteria joints and comparing your women about what sarees you bought, and if your men what holidays and adventures you did, and both what are your children doing to homework. You have spent a lot of time socializing in the place of work. The reason why we go to work is not only to work. And let us be honest to admit that. That social need cannot be taken away. So it's best that we create places which allow for good socialization. And it actually feels like a Starbucks cafe, so that we can go enjoy ourselves and then come back with a new energy and probably work from the quiet of our homes. And think that would be the kind of future that probably is awaiting us. In that future, all that we know about leadership will come crumbling. Centuries of definitions of leadership are summarized by a couple of statements. Leader is someone who knows everything. Leader sets the direction. Leader has the vision. Leaders tell people what to do. People follow him. He inspires. He is a visionary. He makes people do things. Each of these assumptions will go waste into the future, according to me. Because leaders do not know everything. If you want to remember, when Trump said that quinine can cure malaria, what COVID, you will know how naked leaders are. Leaders are as ignorant about the ambiguity of times as anyone else is. It is just conventional sense of hierarchy that has given them the sense of legitimacy. We, inheriting a colonial and a slavish past, have surrendered to the vulnerability of a leader, believing that he is an invincible person. He is not. The next generation will not tolerate. The next nature of events will not enable it. Which is why the leaders must come down from the tall stature and not keep on exhorting people to do things, but shoulder to shoulder in distributed manner, sharing the responsibility of setting the direction. Will create a shared vision and not share a vision. For who cares for your vision? My vision is as important as yours. Just because you have the money and the title called CEO, there is no reason why I should listen to your vision, unless I have shared it. So democratic, participative, consultative ways of doing things would be the order of the future. caution to all of you who are quite habituated to hierarchy-based leadership, maybe some of your foundations are being challenged. And this is the future I believe we should be ready for. Therefore, one of the most interesting points I make in my book, and it's a little subtle statement, therefore I'll take one more minute to explain it. How we work determines how many of us can work. And I'll tell you what that means. How do we work? Work to us is a thing that happens at given hours, either in shifts or in general shift, in a place called office or factory, usually inside or near a big city. Therefore, the people who come to work are usually English speaking, largely male, who can easily commute either in crowded buses or trains or have a motorcycle, and are people who are willing to put up with the pain of the commute and pain of having a very structured life decided by work, not decided by their needs. So they will miss parent-teacher meetings, they will not drop their children to school, they will not take their older parents to hospitals, they will not join the wife on Karwa Chauth, they will not do things because they are the modern office goers and the factory workers. Now, this is the way work is designed. What does it do? It excludes millions of people who are outside this possibility. If you are a woman, if you are non-English speaking, if you are from a small town, if you cannot come to a big city, if you cannot take a bus and a metro, if you do not know how to tuck in your shirt and wear your shoes, if you do not want to conform to the rhythms of an office, if you want some part-time flexibility, if you are anybody different from the stereotype of what a work allows, you cannot enter the workforce. So what have we done? Without our knowing, the way we work has determined who can work. If, however, we change the way we work, if we say it is possible to have a part-time, it's possible to come to office at 11, leave at 4, if it's possible to stay in your own small town and do the work, it's possible to do anything, yet work. More and more people will come to work. And the first section of people that you will come to your mind are women who are constantly, for absolutely good reasons, seeking greater flexibility. And we will not be able to give them and accommodate them. And so the labor force participation of women is low, not because it is not just misogyny and gender discrimination. It is poor imagination of work. Work awaiting to be reimagined, tailored, and made suitable for women. A male stereotypical design of work that doesn't take care of the needs of senior citizens, rural folks, women, so many other categories of people. So the way we work determines how many of us can work. You want employment in this country? It won't come because jobs won't grow on trees. However, the same work can be reimagined to create more jobs. Therefore, I argue that flexible work models should actually be a national strategy. Those of you who are interested in policy making, please consider my proposal that if governments allow for greater flexible work models and encourage them, nurture them, if legal systems change, if the ecosystem changes, and if work can be carried from anywhere in any way, the society and the nation will create an enabling environment for work to flourish. Therefore, there is a case for arguing that flexible work models should be a national strategy. It is not the privilege. Remote work or work from home is not a generous, patronizing privilege that you are giving to some spoiled brats who are demanding it. It is a business imperative if I may push my thought, a national imperative. The country should reimagine how work is done so that more work and more human talent is unleashed. Therefore, our mind should go to Bharat than to the suffering I had. It took me 2 hours to reach here for less than a 15-kilometer ride. If you continue to hold HMA meeting, in spite of this being at the so-called heart of the city, the heart is congested, ladies and gentlemen, full of cholesterol. And we have created it. We have created it because we cannot go back to our towns anymore. Everybody from Adinabad and Warangal has to come to Hyderabad to live. PG accommodation must happen. People must share buses and trains. And cafes will grow. Traffic will grow. We are on the one hand congesting cities, making life unbearable in these big cities. The picture suggests. On the other hand, we are emptying out our villages and forcing miserable migration. The shocking news of which, if you remember, during COVID, when thousands of people had to walk back. That's the story of migration. It is not easy for my little domestic help who comes from thousands of kilometers away from a remote village from Bihar to earn a livelihood of less than 15,000 rupees a month to work in an urban family. We are unjust, to say the least, because we cannot reimagine work. We cannot do anything different to be inclusive. So the urban-centric work needs to be re-engineered. Towns have to be grown. India lies now, as Gandhi said, really finally in its villages and small towns. Tier 2, Kolhapur is where maximum Mercedes cars are sold, not in Delhi. So please understand that the economy has shifted, power of a lot of things have shifted. And therefore, India needs to be decongested, Bharat needs attention. And finally, my last point. So we must finally learn how to take jobs to people and not bring people to jobs. All the things I said, I'm deeply aware on the one side look very appealing and fascinating. On the other side, the critic in you is already saying this is professorial talk. Nothing like this is going to happen anytime soon. Impractical, not feasible. Why are we dreaming? And after all, there are so many problems with work from home. People are cheating, moonlighting, and world cannot be this dream. I am aware of them. But I have a point of view. I want to push for it. Thank you. Come over.
Mike.
You set the stage by asking me tough questions so that they can spare me with easier questions.
Okay. What we will do preferably is that look at if you have straight away questions, we'll shoot that. I know time is there, but if I find that I have to prompt you to ask the right question, I'll step in. So you have a question, why don't we start from there?
Thank you. I'm Ram Mohan Navile, retired chief manager Indian Bank. My question is that now across the globe, working hours are standardized at 8 hours a day. Of course, Narayanamurthy was advocating for working 12 hours a day. But I removed 4 hours instead of adding 4 hours. There should be a cushion, flexibility of people opting to work 4 hours a day with a lesser or proportionate wages so that they can accommodate to more employment.
Very good.
And this is a step towards socialism without any hurt to the capitalism.
Excellent, excellent. Nothing to react. I agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree. 8 hours work should be defined by its outcomes, not by its hours.
Yes.
Please understand that I can work so-called 8 hours and produce 1 hour of result, or I can work for 2 hours and produce 10 hours of result. We all know it. Productivity is not a function of number of hours. We have for too long confused work hours because we have no other measures.